This morning, one of my favorite people to speak with is joining us, Bishop Brian Seage, who is the state bishop for the Mississippi Episcopal Diocese. Why is he one of my favorites? Because Bishop Seage always has an incredible look at life and how we should change our perspective often about how we look at it. Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning, Linda. How are you?
I'm well. It's so great to talk with you again. The last time I spoke with you was during our Day of Hope, and you did share so much hope for so many. This is a trying time, and it seems like we're through the worst of it, so we think in our heads. But mentally, are we really?
Yeah. Well, I think you're spot on. Where all of us are feeling somewhat secure, but also have a sense of not complete security and not a complete assuredness that we're not going to find ourselves back in some sort of shelter at home or COVID thing. So I think there's a fear sort of lurking underneath the surface there. But I'm like you. I'd like to believe that there's a little bit of hopefulness that we can begin to move out and begin to get back in our churches again, get back to some of that sense of doing some of the things that brought us so much peace.
We talk about moral fatigue. I think fundraising fatigue is going to become a big issue as well, because so many churches and helping agencies have been at a standstill in a lot of respect. You certainly can go online or you can turn on the TV to see programs, but that's different than actually participating in a church service to be there. I think a lot of us think internally that we're lone wolves, that we can survive without anyone. And I think what many of us have learned is that is such a fallacy, because we need to connect with each other. Yeah.
That moral fatigue, I think, is an accurate one, and I think you're right also about some of the challenges related around giving. Churches, for example, we've done fairly well with maintaining the tithing through online things and such that, but just that simple passing of the plate around on Easter Day when our crowds are swelled, that didn't happen this year. And some of those just really, really simple things are going to have a dramatic effect, I believe, on the church moving forward. Thankfully, there's a lot of folks who are, in fact, lifting up their hearts in praise through online situations and such, but I think once we turn the corner into the fall, we're gonna find some real challenges in front of us.
Years ago, I had talked to a pastor of a church, and he had told me, he said, if you're preaching to the choir on Sunday morning or preaching to the congregation on Sunday morning about attending services, you are preaching to the choir, because they're there. They're not the ones that you need to be talking to about attending service. Do you think that as we get into a situation where we're used to not doing certain things and we get out of habit of exploring those things and experiencing those things, that we'll become a society that doesn't feel like we need those things anymore?
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I do think humankind is very relies upon habits. I mean, for example, when if we have a week where we get sick and we stop working out for that week because we don't feel well, how hard it is to get back in the frame of doing that. When I was a parish priest, I used to, there was always a temptation on some of our larger feast days, whether it was a big picnic or otherwise, to cancel the early services and just have one service with everybody around 11 or something like that. And I always insisted on not canceling those early services, because I didn't want to give anybody the reason to fall out of the habit of being there. And so I think you're absolutely right that we are creatures of habit, and so we do have to be really careful about. We're going to have to reach out really hard to make sure that our that everyone is aware that there's a pew and there's a spot in the church waiting for them.
There have already been a number of large companies in the country stating that they're not planning on reopening business as it was, that they're going to have more employees working from home and not even coming into a bricks and mortar situation. I think a lot of us have learned to shop a lot online instead of buying local, and that's become easy and a habit. Amazon boxes show up at my door every day. Sometimes I don't know where they came from. But how are church is going to change. How do you think that COVID will change the future of churches? Do you think we'll go back to the way it was, or do you think that this is a permanent change in a new direction?
I think there's going to be some permanent changes, but I think they're going to be changes that are going to be positive. That are going to allow us some really new evangelical opportunities. In the Episcopal Church, for example, we weren't typically a church that was heavy on technology. But now we have been live streaming, and we've been having our a lot of parish meetings and small group meetings via Zoom. And I believe that technological piece of it is going to continue. And I've encouraged all of our priests to do not drop the live streaming. Continue to do that, because there's so many people who are going to continue to shelter in place, and that's going to be their spiritual connection. But there's other folks who have been sheltering in place for a lot of years and for a variety of reasons, who we have reached and we have found and we have been able to share the gospel with. And so I think we've found some newfound avenues there. And I'll share one other piece with that. As far as Zoom meetings go, the Diocese of Mississippi, the Episcopal Diocese, is the entire state. And so I have a lot of statewide boards that I meet with quarterly or what have you. And it's rather than having people from Corinth having to drive into Jackson for those quarterly meetings, it's nice for them to be able to just phone in on Zoom. And we've been able to be very efficient in getting some of our business done.
Do you see that happening in the future then, continuing that, even after COVID is the worst of it has passed?
Yeah, I do think that for some of those, for like I said, the live stream as well as some of those meetings, we will absolutely continue the Zoom meetings. But I also, think that nothing is ever going to replace a face-to-face pastoral meeting, and those sort of situations will still be maintained, and some of the and clergy will still be called into those pastoral situations. That remains part of their part of what they do. I should tell you, one of the things that I've found to be really exciting is I usually have a visitation every Sunday, and in these different times I haven't been able to make those visits, so I've been doing different things from home. And a couple of weeks ago, I started a breakfast with the bishop discussion on Sunday mornings at 9:00 on Facebook Live. And I've just been astounded at how well received that's been, but I've also been astounded at how much fun it's been. I've had a really good time having just some informal discussions with people and seeing the numbers grow. So for me, it seems to be another way that I can reach my congregants.
Yeah, I think we're all having to learn to think a little more creatively. Of course, we can't forget those that are out there that are unemployed right now, that don't have an income coming in, that are worried about that. And I know some are getting unemployment benefits, but let's face it, although the extra money may help right now, it doesn't take away that emotional strain, that fear of what's going to happen next. But I think we are learning, and I think more of us have been going online, more of us have been watching services. I've watched services on Sunday morning, flipping around, looking to see who do I like, and I think more churches are going to have to do that. And then, of course, the trick is, because a church, let's face it, it's like a business. How do you get people to not take that, which is free to them on the airwaves or online, and get them to invest, to make a contribution, to help support you?
Yeah, that's the trick. That's what we're going to need to learn how to utilize. I guess we call it e-commerce within the church world, and how they can and how folks can give online in various ways. And so that remains to be seen. I've been really pleased with getting reports back from churches and how well they have done with their online tithing. And what have you. I've been really, that faithfulness piece has been really
it's a positive sign. We're talking with Bishop Brian Seage with the Mississippi Episcopal Diocese. Thanks for joining us this morning. We're talking about moral fatigue. Please make a contribution to an agency or to your church. Help support them during this difficult time. You're listening to The Gallo Show on this Friday morning at 7:48.